Don, I'm going to apologise in advance for the directness of this first question, but how concerned are you now about finishing in that second bottom place?
Look, we're an honest group. I'm an honest person. We are where we are. In terms of we're sitting second bottom of the league. It's not where we want to be. We haven't performed well enough over a sustained period over the last 5 games. Within those games, there's been aspects that I've enjoyed, but at this stage of the season, you need to produce a more complete performance to win football matches, and we've come up short in that. And now we go into 4 huge games. We've still got it in our hands, but at the same time, which I've said to the boys, we can't say we've got 4 games, we've got 5 games, or we've got 3 games, whatever it is at that time. The next one's the most important one, and that's this week.
That's fine, that is exactly what I was looking for. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Cheers.
Has that been the focus of the message this week? Grab it now, kind of thing, in terms of performance? Yeah,
because no one's going to give us anything. Everyone's fighting for their lives. Points are important. You've got to go and earn it. We have not managed to earn that over the last 5 games. Like I say, there's been bits that have been good. We've worked hard, but we need to, play with less fear in terms of what's coming, the position that we're in, and we need to produce that Ross County spirit that we've produced, year after year at this football club, and now's the time to produce it again.
Do you think maybe the confidence has fed into that sense of a wee bit of fear, just a dip in confidence, maybe, or?
Yeah, look, I was a player, so I know when you lose games of football, over a period of time, it can take an effect on you individually, collectively, and it's about me reminding them what they're capable of doing, showing them what they've produced at times throughout this season, and to get that confidence back up. And that can just change in a game, but what I'm saying is you can't just keep waiting for that moment. We individually and then collectively have to change that.
Yeah. There have been times when you've been looking at the fixtures, when you've been in a sticky spell, and one win has just turned the fortunes, and that's just what you're waiting on, just that spark, and it's happened under you several times.
It has, and like I say, that's what gives you the belief, because football can change really quickly. We're the same manager and staff and group of players who 5 weeks ago were in a really healthy position after winning 3 games out of 4, and you can see that it can change really quickly. Well, on the flip side, it can be in a positive manner as well, and that's what we have to look to do this weekend against Hearts.
You've drawn with Hearts twice this season as well. The game up here in particular was quite a thriller with two late goals, and that was an example of the fighting spirit.
Yeah, and that, like I say, that is the foundation of this football club, and that's what we need to tap into going into this spell that we've got now. It's been a challenging period results wise, but we have to look to end that, and that's this weekend. There's no guarantee in football that you can win the match, but what we need to do is perform at a high level to give ourselves that best possible opportunity to win the game of football.
Hearts have obviously got rid of their manager. Does that make it unpredictable as to how they will approach the game at all, or do you know enough about how Liam likes to approach a game that maybe gives you a clue as to how they will approach?
Well, it's the second time we've played Hearts this season when they've changed the manager and Liam's came in as interim. There is the challenge of personnel, people who maybe have been out of the picture come back into the fold that maybe Liam believes in and wants to give them the opportunity. So there is that uncertainty on shape, personnel, but then for me that the positive of that is we just focus on ourselves. We need to control the way we perform and perform at a high level, rather than worry about who Liam decides to pick and in what shape. So then the ownership just comes purely down to us performing well.
Yeah. And on the positive side, I think the fans have definitely haven't bought tickets in numbers. There's a feeling of that the season's fallen flat for them, which you can obviously take advantage of, hopefully.
Well, the reason that Neil's left his role is because the results haven't been good enough at a massive football club in our country. Maybe a bit premature, people will say, but it's happened. So there's that doubt there. They're in a a run of form, a challenging run of form like ourselves, and we have to use that to our advantage. We are at home, and it's up to us to take advantage of that and perform well and put them under pressure and make them feel uncertain.
You were talking to us last week about going and meeting up with Ian Catherine, obviously left Hearts partway through the season. What's it going to be like in their dressing room at the minute with the change of manager, and what will be going through the players' minds?
Well, it's no matter if it's Hearts or any other football club, there'll be people that will have differing opinions. There'll be people that are relieved, happy because they've maybe not had the game time that they feel they deserve, so that gives them a natural lift. The boys who maybe been the bedrock of the team that have played every match will be disappointed because they've lost a manager who believed in them, so there'll be mixed emotions. So a new voice comes in, someone who's been at the club, but someone who might see how they perform and the way they shape up differently. So there'll be, like I say, a variant emotions going on in that dressing room. But at the same time, as I was as a player, I'd like to think there's accountability as well in terms of a manager's lost his job.
When you're talking about maybe not being too sure of the shape the personnel at Hearts are going to line up with, I guess there would be uncertainty in Hearts' dressing room too that you could potentially take advantage of.
Say that again, sorry?
As you say, you're not sure potentially the shape personnel Hearts are going to line up with, there would be uncertainty in the Hearts' dressing room too in their camp that you might be able to take advantage of this weekend.
Well, yeah, but it's like I say, Liam's been there for a number of years, so it's not like it's someone that's coming from out with. So they know who he is. They know I know him really well. He's an excellent coach, so they're with him every day on the grass. They know the demands that he'll be putting on them, despite not being the head coach. He's been in this role before at the start of the season. He did really well at that time. So he's been a manager previously, so it's not like he's going into the unknown, and the players know him really well. So it comes back to what I said. It's about us focusing on producing a performance, and we understand what's happened at Hearts, but we'll take care of the rest in terms of where our focus is.
I know there's pressure on every game that you go into. Does it feel different at this time of the year?
Yeah, because there's no time, and again that's the message to the players. You can't wait to make the difference. Now's the time to do it. So you understand the importance of results and stopping the run of form that we're in, and the impact that can have, the reaction it can have. It just gives that confidence again. So it's just about focusing on this game that's coming and making sure that we perform at a good level. Yeah, we're coming up against a good team with good individuals, so we've got to take that into consideration. But how do you impact the game individually and collectively?
How's Scott Allardyce having come off in the game?
Yeah, it's disappointing one. He's not one that's started a lot. We played him on Saturday. I thought he was probably our best player in the hour that he played. So disappointed for him that he had to come off at that time. There's a bit of discomfort in his knee. We've had it scanned. There could be damage there, which rules him out for the rest of the campaign. But the way he's feeling, he's maybe not thinking that's the case. So we'll just see how it goes over the next few days in terms of how it really does settle down. But the early diagnosis is that he could be out. Yeah.
So what happens next there then? After maybe a couple of days to go for another scan, or is it just a case of seeing how he reacts?
Yeah, well, it could be just get a second opinion on it. It's his knee. He's had history of injury in the knee that has happened to. So it could be that the scan showed up an older injury rather than something that happened on Saturday. But he definitely felt discomfort on Saturday, and that's why he came off the pitch. But the way he's feeling right now, he doesn't think it's that bad compared to what a scan's saying. So, we'll take a bit of time to digest that and see how he progresses.
Any other team news?
Yeah, Ross Laidlaw didn't make it at the weekend. He's ill. He's still not back in the building, so he's a doubt for this weekend. Apart from that, I think Well, Nightingale's back. He, on the eve of the St Mirren game, wasn't available, which has probably been a reflection of his season. Stop-start, which is really frustrating, for him and us. But he's back training again, so he's part of the group.
Is the frustration from Saturday dawn that in the first half I think it was more than double the amount of successful passes completed compared to Kilmarnock, but the lack of attacking threat in that final third. I mean, after the game of Paisley, obviously there was a lot of chances created, but is that just the key thing that's needed to be unlocked in this team to just try and kick us on for the last few games?
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean in terms of a complete performance. There's been aspects that's been good. I thought we controlled the first half really well against Kilmarnock. Difficult game, the surface, and like you say, we looked in control. But then how do you carry that threat after you've shown that control? And we didn't do it enough, and that's what we need to improve on. Like you say, against St Mirren, it was probably the opposite. We didn't have as much control, but we had the threat in terms of looking like we could score goals. So it's about us marrying it together and putting it as a complete performance. I think Kilmarnock's a prime example of it. It's about being solid and putting in a complete performance in terms of being defensively solid and then carrying that threat, and that's what we need to look to produce this weekend and the next 3 games after it.
I think across the last 5 games it's like a total XG of something like 3.16. Based on Saturday's performance as well, is that players just need to take a little bit more bravery on the ball in the final third and in their decision making, or is it a case of the patterns of play that you'll be working on kind of in the run up to these last 4 games, that they are more aware to get themselves in these kind of dangerous positions?
Yeah, I would say it's both. Like I say, we're all accountable. It's not just the players, it's myself and the staff in terms of giving ourselves that best possible opportunity. And it is, reinforcing what we're looking for in that final third, and then also the players, having that freedom. I believe that I'm a manager who gives people that freedom in terms of, they're at this football club for a reason, because they're good players and they can create things, score goals. We've got, plenty of forward players, strikers that can score, and it's just having that, that belief in themselves again, that they can go and make the difference. Yes, we've had the setback of losing Noah Chilvers, who is a huge part of the team, but we know that that's the case. He's not here, and maybe there was a stage prior to this run where people were looking for Noah to be the one that makes a difference because he had so much quality. Well, he's not there, so now it's up to other people to go, you know what, I'm going to be the one that's going to make the difference. I'm going to be the one that's going to play with a bit of freedom and take risks and try and score goals or create goals, and that is the message going into this week.
I guess compared to this time last year, obviously you were in the role. How much of that experience can you and your staff and the players who were here look back on that and compare it to this season to try and get us over the line, go one step further compared to last year in this kind of 30 game season?
It's life in general, but in football, experiences are huge that you can lean on. We're not facing something that we've never faced before at this football club, but what we do when we're in this position is we come together, and like I say, we show that county spirit to get to where we need to get to, and that's going to be the exact same over these next 4 games. We're at home on Saturday against Hearts, big team in this country, but we need everyone together, players, staff, fans, to give us that opportunity to go and get a really important 3 points.
Would you vote for Akil Wright as goal of the season? Because it's, there was quality goals out the Premiership, but he's quite rightly in the running.
Yeah, I think for me, and not just being biased, I think I've seen the shortlist, and I think it's definitely got to be up there, a real contender in terms of whether it gets first. But I think if it's not first, it'll be within the top 3, that's for sure. I think maybe what goes against him is the weather at the time. The snow was coming down. You can barely see the ball because of the, how much snow was lying on the pitch. But for a centre back to come up with a moment of quality like that was really special. Probably just a bit surprised that his other goal wasn't in the contender for it as well with his bicycle kick.
That's right.